Hey everyone! We now have open the document that we just made. We want to check and see what document this is in case it's a different document or if something's changed. We can go over here on the left corner and you can see that it's 24 megabytes. If we click on this, it will tell us that it's 8 by 10, 3 color RGB at 8 bits per color, and the resolution is 300 pixels per inch. It also tells us the pixel width and depth. So what if we want to change this? What if we change our mind and think, hey, we want to do something for web instead? We need to go up to image size, and this will give us a pop-up menu. Let me make sure that's all on screen here. This image size is where we can resample, which means either to add or subtract pixels. If we look at our resampling menu here, we have different options for enlargement. We have different options for reduction, and a few that work better for photographs. Sometimes if you have smooth gradients, that will help on photographs, and sometimes nearest neighbor hard edges will look better for more graphic style type things. So from here, if I wanted to reduce this, say I had this image and I still wanted it to be say I wanted it to be something that was more appropriate for web. If I go to fit to, I can automatically change it to 1024 by 768. This is a web size because standard web resolution is 72 pixels per inch. This is starting to change now though with higher retina displays. So you can actually design for as high as 144. That's why sometimes if you know that you're going to be doing something for print and web, it might be best just to design for something that's 155. As you can see here, though, I've resampled my image. So it's important, this is very important. If I click out of this and say cancel, then everything's fine. I haven't lost any pixels, I haven't gained any pixels. However, if I go up into image size and I change this, I resample it down to, let's say, 72 pixels, you see I go down to just 1.39 megabytes when it was 24.1. I just have thrown away all of those pixels and there's no way to get them back other than going Control Z. Control Z will get them back to that state before they were thrown away. But if I go ahead and do this and then I take it down to 72 and then I go back up and then I take it back up to 300, then do you see I've added all of those pixels, and those are fake pixels that have to be generated by the computer that will not be as clear quality as something that is coming from an image source that you have made yourself or procured from the web somehow. So to emphasize this point, let's do this with a stock image that I found. This is a open source domain, there's no copyrights on it, image that I found on Morgfile. I'm going to go back up to image size. So we can already see this is a pretty huge image. This image might not be appropriate for everything that I'm wanting to do, even though it says 72 resolution. If I'm trying to figure out how big would that be at my end size, So if I go over to the right here, I can switch from pixels to inches. So you can see it's actually 61 inches by 47 inches at 72 ppi. If I wanted to change this without adding or subtracting pixels, I need to uncheck the resample box. This is very important. If you have the resample box on, it will either add or take away pixels when you resize things. If you take the sample box off, it will not take away or add pixels. So let's see. If I put this at 300, which we learned is the optimum print quality, 300 pixels per inch is what we want for output. So we can get an 11 by 14 out of this about. There's a little bit of pixel change in there. So an 11 by 14 high quality print. Let's say I don't need that much though, and 42 megabytes is going to be too much. I can't send that over email. What if I just want this as a little headline for a website? If I take this, trying to get this so that I can see the image a little better. If I take this and I'm going to change my my resample for reduction, so sharpener, I'm going to change this. Let's say my end image use is going to be 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches on my screen. 1.5 or 1.5 by whatever it is. If I want to make changes that are exact, that aren't proportional, I need to take off my constrain aspect ratio by just clicking on it. So then I could make it 1.5 by 1.5. But as you see, it actually stretches this. So I don't really want to do that. Okay, so let's do that again. So if I want to change this into a specific size on my website, actually let's do this in pixels. So if I change this to pixels here, and I want to have this be, how about let's have it be 200 pixels by whatever the height is. Do you see how small that gets? I've lost from 42 megabytes down to 90K. And it still looks a little bit fuzzy because it's been enlarged 300%. This is what it'll look like. This is its main image. Actually, let's make that 400 pixels so we can still see it a little bit better. Okay. Actually, okay, here we go. 200 by 155 at 72. This is ready to go on my website. This is ready to run around and do everything. So if I go okay, I've just thrown away all those pixels. I can't go back up to image. I mean, I can, but I shouldn't go back up to image and then go, okay, I want this to actually be what I actually want this to be closer to what it was before, which was 40 by it was 60 by 40 or something. Do you see what this does? This is it. All those pixels have been thrown away, and this is what the different renderings try to do. You can see with the smoother, it tries to smooth out the edges in between the pixels to try to fool your eye. So if you've ever wondered why do your pictures start getting a little fuzzy like this, it's because the resolution has been it isn't adequate for the end use, and maybe it's been resized, it hasn't been resized properly, and it hasn't, and there's some resampling that's gone on in the process. So as you can see, let's look at this again. Preserve details for enlargement. This gives it kind of a painterly effect. If you have noise going on, sometimes that's called JPEG artifacts. Sometimes they'll slip in there. You can try to mess with that. You have the bicubic smoother. Again, it's a little bit blurry, tries to fool the eye. Sharpener, which tries to maintain some of the sharpness, but again, is not really what we want. Bicubic, just tiny bit of difference there. Nearest neighbor, this is, sometimes you want this look. Sometimes you want something to look pixelated and digital or 8-bit color. 8-bit referring to the culture, not the actual color schemes. And we have bilinear, which again you can see is just a blurry rendition that's kind of similar to bicubic sharpener. So see, all of those pixels from 90 to 18.4 have now just been added. So keep that in mind when you're working with images that you find. That resampling, and you can always make it smaller from a large sample, but you don't want to try making it bigger. You can, with the new tools that are available through some of these sampling issues. Let's go back in and look at those again. Image size. With some of these new resampling issues, you can get away with a lot more than you used to before, but not quite as much as you should. So I'm going to step back a few steps, doing this by doing Control and Option Z, and now I'm back up to my original image, and say I want to take this into my document I've set up. So from here, they look the same, right? I've got a white background, and I've got a white background, and I've got sparrow on it. Everything looks fine. But when I pull it over, it's gigantic. It's bigger than it was in the other document. So where did my other document go? There we go. So you can see he's a lot bigger here. And this document, let's look down here. Again, over here on the left, it's twice as big megabytes wise. And it's twice as big pixel wise with our full pixel width and depth than it is over here. So an important thing to know about something we just talked about as far as resampling goes, if I drag an image over into a document and then I use the corners here, if I use the corners here and hold down Shift, I can resize proportionally. This is a nice way sometimes when you drop an image into a document to just resize something and get it where you want. Maybe I'll have him up over here in the corner where I'm planning to have him eventually for my flyer or website or whatever it is I'm designing right now. Right now we're still in an 8x10 4-print layout, so it will probably be for a flyer. It's important to note I haven't pressed check or X out on this yet. I can do as much as I want of check, of resizing, flipping them around, trying to do all sorts of other stretching and, you know, stretch this way, stretch that way, all sorts of manipulations. As long as I haven't pressed the check, it's not committed to, and I can just cancel out. What's important to note here, though, in what we're covering as far as resampling, if I go ahead and make him itty bitty, tiny itty bitty sparrow here, itty bitty, and then I go ahead and press check, I've now thrown away all of those pixels. Those pixels are gone. It's just the same as if I went up to image and then resized it from here. If I go back and try to make the image bigger, guess what? I do not have those pixels. I don't have that. I don't have that buffer to play around with. So if I don't have that buffer, then when I press OK, it's going to automatically try to figure out what the best resampling way is to go, and it's going to look kind of gross. So, let's step back a few steps. So this is the guy I just brought in. I'm going to go ahead and make a duplicate of him real quick. I'll do that by just copying the layer. I did that by taking the layer and dragging it down to the copy layer here. And so I'm going to make one that's super big and stays where he is. Make it small. And then, okay. And then I'm going to make them, bring them back up again. And you can see the difference here. So that's a quick lesson on why resampling matters and why you need to be careful about your images and what states you bring them in as and how you manipulate them. One easy way to make sure that you always have a copy of these is in your working file. Make sure you have a copy of whatever it is that you brought in. So if you have a giant bird, keep the giant bird as a separate file. You can call this, if you double click on the layer, just original file. And you can store those away in a group or something. So I did that by making a little guy here, just putting it into a group. That way you'll always have your reference files to go back in case you do accidentally mess something up like this. And you don't want to go and track down all those files again.